you had with the kids for a summer weekend.
Mine,
You know,
like, yeah, like, a lot of this stuff was a long time ago.
okay. And you wrote that Layla was becoming even more interactive with the Rosenbaums than she had been before, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
She was saying more words every day? Every time you saw her, she was saying more words?
She started saying more words. Yes, ma'am.
And Jennifer was working with her on her words and putting them together, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you noted that the girls are adjusting well and do great in the home.
Yes, ma'am.
You noted that children were comfortable in the home, comfortable moving around.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's what you yourself saw.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, isn't it true that every time you saw the girls, you would undress Layla?
Yes, ma'am.
And Jennifer was aware that you came monthly and that you would undress Layla, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you ever see anything on Layla or on Millie that said abuse to you?
No, ma'am.
You noted in September that Millie was very excited. She told you she'd baked brownies and was with a friend of Miss Jennifer's was there as well. Do you remember her telling you about the brownies?
Possibly. She was often excited about stuff.
Okay. And when she was often excited about stuff when she was with the Rosenbaums, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Let me show you what I put tab on here and see if this helps refresh your recollection about the brownies.
Objected on what she's asking me, she said she could not recall.
She did say about the brownies she didn't remember.
That relates to that issue, that's fine.
I can
You can take a
confirm
look.
that. Okay.
Does that refresh your recollection?
Yes, ma'am.
Was Millie excited to tell you about the brownies she had baked?
Yes, ma'am.
She told you about going to Six Flags and riding roller coasters, didn't she?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
And you wrote that the girls were seen by a therapist, right? At some point when they were at the Rosenbaums, you said the children were seen by a therapist. Do you recall that?
They were seen by a therapist.
They were. You remember that?
Yeah, I remember that therapist.
Now, you also remember writing that Layla was able to use the tablet to do certain things, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
They had an iPad that both girls used.
I don't know if it was iPad, but they had like a tablet that they would play on.
And in October, you visited again and saw no signs of maltreatment, isn't that correct?
Correct.
Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You said no marks or bruises, and the Rosenbaums are still working on hitting with Layla, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And she was improving.
Yes, ma'am.
And you said no marks or bruises on the bodies, correct?
I believe so. Yes, ma'am.
And you also said the girls are well fed, no imminent threat of harm, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Children ever tell you, when you were talking to Millie privately, they don't put any food in our bodies? Did she ever tell you that?
No, ma'am.
Did she ever tell you, I'm not getting enough to eat?
No, ma'am.
Did Layla ever indicate to you she wasn't getting enough to eat?
No, ma'am.
Did Millie ever say Layla's not getting food?
No, ma'am.
And Millie told you she loved gymnastics and she was learning how to do cartwheels.
I don't I don't remember cartwheels, but I do remember she enjoyed going to gymnastics.
Do you remember her saying she likes to do cartwheels?
That's possible. But, I mean, I'm honestly not sure, but that's possible. She was enjoying gymnastics.
Okay. She told you she also helps Layla do exercises when they are at home.
Yes, ma'am.
They did that out in the front yard.
I don't know if it was out in the front yard. When I was there, they were inside.
And you saw them do it. She told you that she did
Yes,
it.
ma'am.
Which one?
Millie.
Told you that she did it.
Yes, ma'am.
They did exercises. And she was very excited to tell you about her birthday in October, right?
Yes, ma'am.
At Noah's Ark.
No, when me and her talked about her birthday, I believe it was with her grandmother, well, her great-grandmother.
Her great-grandmother. Her great-grandmother took her to lunch, right?
Yes.
But she also had a birthday party at Noah's Ark, didn't she? That Miss Jennifer put together.
I know she had a birthday party. I don't remember if it was at Noah's Ark or not. I'm not sure about that, but I know they did give her a birthday party.
And you asked Millie how she likes living with the Rosenbaums, and she said that she liked Miss Rosenbaum. Miss Rosenbaum was nice to her.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, each time you visited, you talked privately with Millie.
Yes, ma'am.
Did Millie ever say, you know, Miss Jennifer drinks and then pulls Layla up the stairs?
No, ma'am.
Did she ever say, Mr. Rosenbaum hit me on the back or beat me on the back?
No, ma'am.
Did she ever tell you that Mrs. Rosenbaum need her?
No, ma'am.
She ever say to you, you know, my arm hurts?
No, ma'am.
Either girl ever show you their arm and say it hurts or give any indication of that?
No, ma'am.
Now, on October 22nd, you were notified in the evening by Jennifer that Layla had broken her leg, right?
Could you repeat that for me?
I said you were notified in the evening by Jennifer that Layla had broken her leg.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
And did you talk to any doctors or nurses about that?
Yes, ma'am.
You called and talked to the doctor at the emergency room, Hudson Bridge.
Correct. I'm not sure if it was doctor, but I did call and speak with someone.
Okay. And you specifically asked the doctor if there were any signs of abuse.
Yes, ma'am.
And you satisfied yourself that there were no signs of abuse, correct?
Correct.
You felt comfortable because you talked to the doctor himself, correct?
I spoke with someone there. Yes, ma'am.
But what they told you made you feel comfortable.
Correct.
Now, in November, the leg was still in a cast and there were no signs of abuse, no bruises or markings, correct?
When I saw them, no, ma'am.
Now, didn't you also on November 2nd undress Layla? Didn't you tell Miss Roberson that you undressed Layla?
When I spoke with who?
Miss Roberson, Misha Roberson, defects investigation?
I do not know who that is.
You don't remember?
No.
Did
I
you
don't
remember
speaking
telling
to that person.
Do you remember telling anybody that you did take the clothes off of Layla on the 2nd?
No, ma'am.
You don't recall?
No, ma'am.
You recall telling investigators that the bruising you saw at the hospital you did not see it prior on November 2nd.
Correct.
The bruising that you saw at the hospital on Layla or Millie, you did not see on November 2nd, correct?
Correct.
Now, you talked with Ms. Young about the hitting the head on the faucet. Now, you looked at her head and there was no bruising, right?
Correct.
And the scratch, it was a small scratch, and Millie said it didn't hurt, right?
It wasn't a scratch. It was like literally like a red mark
A red
under
mark.
her eye.
So it didn't break skin.
Correct.
And she had sensitive eyes, didn't she? I mean, they would get red easily.
Not that I remember.
Okay. But Millie told you that it didn't hurt, right? Well, you asked her about isn't it true that Millie said it didn't hurt?
Yeah, I remember her telling me she was okay.
Okay. Let me see if this refreshes your recollection about that.
Judge, I don't think she said she didn't remember anything.
She said she talked about not remembering whether it was whether Millie said that she was hurt or not.
She said that
No,
she did not.
I didn't hear that.
I'm sorry, but well, to answer your question, I said that she said that she.
1 second. She withdraw the question.
If I may, Your Honor, because I got a different answer.
Okay. Let me just fire. It's just to the left of 10:30. We'd like to take a 15-minute break right about now. Is this a good stop?
Yes, yes.
We're going to take a 15-minute break. Thank you.
And the reason for that is she was unavailable, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And it wasn't because Miss Jennifer did anything to prevent visits, did she?
Correct.
Okay. In fact, in September and October, we know she was unavailable because she was in jail, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And isn't it true that you mentioned earlier with Miss Young that Anthony Daniel was visiting, that he was doing visits?
Yes, ma'am.
Isn't it in fact true that Anthony Daniel, from June 11th, 2014 to September 11th, 2015, was incarcerated?
For who? Which one?
Anthony Daniel. Isn't it true that he couldn't have done visitations because he was incarcerated from June 11th, 2014 to September 11th, 2015?
I'm not sure of those exact dates, but I do know that he was in jail while the girls were in care.
Okay. See if this helps refresh your recollection. You need to look at both pages.
Okay. I don't even know what this is.
Does that refresh your recollection?
It does, but I see the dates on there.
Okay. You mentioned earlier that the time that you couldn't undress Layla and see her body was on November 2nd because of tooth problems, because of molars coming into her gums, correct?
Correct.
Isn't it in fact true that it was in October that her molars were coming in, isn't it?
Honestly, not sure.
Okay. Take a look at this and see if it helps refresh your recollection as to when Miss Jennifer told you that the molars were coming in and that's why she was sleeping on the couch.
She was never sleeping on it.
Well, laying on the couch.
She was laying on it.
She wasn't laying on the couch, okay.
No, ma'am.
What was she doing, running around? I thought you said that she was not, that you couldn't undress her in
She was
November.
asleep. But
She was asleep.
She was in the bed. She wasn't
She wasn't on the couch. She
No,
was in
ma'am.
bed. Does that refresh your recollection?
Yes, ma'am.
Isn't it true that the molars coming in and her being in the bed was in October of 2015?
No, ma'am. I mean, we discussed her molars.
But did you not discuss them in October?
Correct, that's when we discussed it.
Okay. So in November, you did undress Layla, because it was in November, in October, that she was having the molars coming in, correct?
Correct, that's when we discussed the molars.
Okay. Now, I'd asked you earlier about South Carolina, and you said that you did not know anything about them going on visit to South Carolina.
That's not what I said. I said I did not remember that conversation.
Okay, well, let me see if I can refresh your recollection.
That's fine. Okay.
Does that refresh your recollection?
Yes, ma'am.
Did they go to South Carolina?
Once again, I honestly don't remember that trip.
You don't remember it?
No, ma'am.
Did your notes reflect that they were going on a trip to South Carolina?
Yes, that they were planning on going on a trip.
Okay. And that it was for a mini vacation, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, we had talked briefly about the girls, and isn't it correct, Ms. White, that you had said the girls were sort of rough and tumble, that they played hard and could be aggressive? Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember talking about the girls being active.
And do you recall that Millie had a forensic interview? She had several during the course of this July to October, November period. Do you recall what she said in her forensic interview with regards to Mr. Rosenbaum?
I don't remember her saying anything just about him, but that she enjoyed being in the home.
And didn't she in fact say that he was good to she and Layla? Mr. Rosenbaum was good to she and Layla?
Once again, I don't remember her saying anything specific about anyone, but that she did enjoy being in the home.
Okay. When you spoke to the doctor about the broken leg, isn't it true, Ms. White, I'm sorry, isn't it true that the doctor said it was consistent with falling in a hole and then falling in gymnastics?
No, ma'am.
It's not, that's not what he said.
I honestly don't remember that. We discussed the hard cast having to be put on and that she should heal normally. So I did ask about the healing process with her being so young.
So you don't remember saying that?
Correct.
No. With regards to Peggy Banks, there was a great deal of controversy about Miss Banks, wasn't there?
I don't remember there being controversy.
Okay. Was there
About
not
her.
complaints at both the Lamberts and the Browns that Millie would come back from visits with her great-grandmother, Peggy Banks, and that she would tell them that she didn't have to mind them? Isn't that true? She misbehaved.
Yes, ma'am. I remember some complaints about that.
Okay, and this
About her
was a
behavior.
problem, I'm sorry,
No, saying I do remember them having complaints about her behavior.
okay, and this was a problem in the Brown household, in the Lambert household, and then in the Rosenbaum household, wasn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
And Millie was originally visiting weekly with her great-grandmother, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And that eventually changed, didn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
And you decided in conjunction with the facts that you were dealing with that she shouldn't have visitation once a week, correct?
That she shouldn't?
That she shouldn't. Didn't there come a time when you changed the visitation to once a month instead of once a week? Because of her continuing to tell Millie she didn't have to mind and Millie misbehaving every visit.
I don't recall that. With her visit being changed, that was to incorporate the parents.
But the parents, as of October, were not in the picture, correct? Did we just establish that?
It was only 2 of the parents, but that was the reason for her visits being changed
Okay.
initially. That was the reason for the visits being changed.
The reason for the visits being changed was because a set of parents was visiting?
Well, we were trying to incorporate the parents into visitation.
Isn't it true that you ran into problems with Miss Banks telling Millie that if she stayed with the Rosenbaums forever, she won't be able to spend the night with her, correct?
I remember that statement.
You do? And in fact, you felt that this was misinformation on Miss Banks's part, don't you?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
Okay. Did you not say that she was giving false hope to Millie? That Miss Banks was giving false hope to Millie
In regards to what?
in regards to if the Rosenbaums were able to adopt her, she wouldn't be able to spend any time with her grandmother, her great-grandmother.
Sorry, you asking, did I speak to her about that?
Did you discuss that with her?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you write in your notes that you felt she was giving false hope to Millie?
I'm not sure exactly what I wrote, but I know we discussed it.
See if this refreshes your recollection.
Okay, that's not what I stated to her.
No,
That
to
was
her,
just,
but that's what you
oh,
stated in your notes,
yes,
isn't it?
ma'am.
And isn't it true that there were problems in all 3 households, the Browns, the Lamberts, and the Rosenbaums, with Peggy Banks discussing things she shouldn't with Millie? Isn't that true?
Yes, ma'am.
And you felt that that was inappropriate, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you do about it?
Me and Miss Banks did have a conversation about conversations she would be having with Millie and things that shouldn't be discussed.
And you wrote in your notes that her visits might be put on hold, didn't you?
Possibly. Not sure.
Would it help refresh your recollection to look at your notes?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Is that, it refreshes your recollection?
Yes, ma'am.
And you told her that her visits might be put on hold if that's continued, correct?
That's not what I stated to her.
But you stated that in your notes.
Yes, ma'am.
But is it fair to say you warned her that if it continued, her visits might be put on hold?
Possibly.
Did Miss Banks or Tessa ever call you up and say, my children are being abused in the Rosenbaum home?
No, ma'am.
Neither one of them.
No, ma'am.
And they knew how to communicate with you, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And when she called you at night, in the evening hours, you said that Tessa would call you in the evening hours. You addressed that with her, didn't you?
When who called me?
Tessa. Didn't she call you in the evening hours? You testified earlier that sometimes she called you in the evening. No? She never called you in the
No.
evening?
I mean, she would call to get in
Okay,
contact with
that's
me.
what I'm asking. Did she call
That's
in the
fine.
evenings?
She would sometimes, yes.
Okay, thank you. So it wasn't that they didn't know how to get in touch with you, correct?
No, they knew how to get in contact with me.
And you answered the phone, didn't you?
If I could answer the phone, yes, ma'am.
You got back to them, didn't you?
Yes,
If you
ma'am.
couldn't. At some point, visits with Peggy were changed from weekly to every other week because it was felt that Peggy was prompting Millie to misbehave when she returned home. Do you recall writing that in your notes?
I believe so.
In fact, Miss White, Tessa told you she would rather the children were with the Rosenbaums than with family because of the family drug use, correct?
I don't remember her saying for that reason, but I do know that she was okay with them being with the Rosenbaums. I don't remember her saying that exactly.
See if this helps refresh your recollection.
Okay, and with this isn't something that I wrote, but I do, like I said, I had the conversation with Miss Tessa, and she was okay with the girls being placed with Miss Rosenbaum.
Because she didn't want the children placed with her family because of drug use, correct?
That's what it says on here, but once again, I didn't write that, so I can't say for sure if that's exactly what she said.
Okay. Now, you were familiar with the home visit that was done of the Rosenbaums,
Of which home visit?
the Rosenbaum home,
Which home visit?
the initial home visit, the home that the behavioral folks did, Michael Sheets did
The home evaluation.
Home evaluation. You're familiar with it?
Yes, ma'am.
And isn't it true that in that home evaluation, it was specifically mentioned that neither Joseph nor Jennifer knew CPR, correct?
I'm not sure.
Do you have anything in your file that says that these folks were trained in CPR or Heimlich maneuver?
No official document, not that I remember.
You don't have
Nothing that I
anything?
think of. I don't have anything, no.
And you can't refer us to anything where it says that they knew CPR or knew the Heimlich maneuver?
No, ma'am.
Now, when Jennifer called you to tell you that the child went to the hospital, how did her voice sound?
And she sounds scared.
She sound panicked?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was her demeanor when she got to the hospital?
She was upset. She was visibly upset.
And isn't it true you wrote that she was crying, you could hear her crying from the corner of the street, from the hospital to where she was getting out of her car?
Right, we were still on the phone.
Okay, but you could hear her crying?
Yes, ma'am, we were on the phone.
Okay. I'm asking you, Miss White, maybe I'm not making myself clear, what was her demeanor when she got to the hospital?
She was visibly upset.
And she was crying, wasn't she?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Millie told you that she and Layla were never spanked or hit, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you asked Millie, and you saw the bruises on Millie, did you state that it did not look like a hit to you? Do you recall stating that it did not look like a hit?
No, ma'am.
You don't recall?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Do you recall asking Layla if anyone had hit her? Asking Millie if anyone had hit her or Layla when you were at the hospital?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall asking her if anyone had hit her or Layla?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was her response?
She said that no one had hit her or her sister.
And in fact, she repeated that no one had hurt her or her sister. Isn't that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, talking just briefly about Miss Newman, who was the one who did one of the evaluations, isn't it true that that evaluation was done just as the children were going to the Rosenbaums?
Yes, ma'am.
And isn't it true that at the time, Miss Newman said, you know, the child is very young. I'm going to see if one of my coworkers can work with her.
Yes, ma'am.
Isn't it true that Isn't it true, Ms. White, that the girls were being referred for therapy and a forensic interview? Isn't that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Isn't it true that you wrote in your notes that the girls were not around their parents because of lack of contact on the part of the parents?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. White, did Layla or Millie ever tell you anybody was hitting them, spanking them, beating them, or doing anything harmful to them?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have at this time.
Just a few follow-up questions.
Okay, thank you. Please proceed.
Ms. White, no silly question, was Layla verbal?
Not completely, no.
Could she tell you whether or not someone was hitting her?
No, ma'am.
And Millie, when you would ask her about being hit, would that be when you were in the Rosenbaum's home? To your knowledge, when the girls were living with the Rosenbaums, were they seeing a counselor or a therapist?
Not that I remember. I know it was initiated. They had the first one, but I know it didn't continue long.
Where did they have that first visit with the therapist? Was that Ms. Tammy Newman that you're speaking about?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And would it help you to look at the records as to when they had the interaction with Ms. Newman?
That was actually, that was on the 14th of July.
To your knowledge, did they have any more interaction with Ms. Newman after the July?
She may have seen them once again, but therapy didn't continue.
So, let me ask you, Ms. Maul asked you about having referrals to therapy and to counselors. Is that what you're speaking of when they had initially referrals to therapy and counseling?
Yes, ma'am.
Did that therapy and counseling continue?
No, ma'am.
To your knowledge, would the therapy or counseling that they had interfere with them being able to have visits with their biological family while they were staying with the Rosenbaums?
No, ma'am.
It shouldn't have been a problem
Correct.
due to counseling.
Right.
And then I want to back up and ask you about daycare.
Okay.
On September the 3rd, where were you told the girls were attending daycare?
Bethany.
And let me back up. In regards to September the 2nd, the injury to Layla, where were you told that occurred?
I believe she had received the injury while she was at daycare from an
And to your understanding, what was that daycare?
Bethany.
Was it Turning Point?
I honestly don't remember Turning Point.
Before today, have you heard of the daycare called Turning Point?
Honestly, do not remember. Are you saying have I personally heard of?
No, I'm saying prior to today, did the defendants ever tell you that Millie and Layla were attending daycare at Turning Point?
Not that I remember.
What are the daycares that you recall they said that they were attending?
I do. I remember Ola and I remember Bethany.
And did you notate that anywhere in your records?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever notate anything about Turning Point?
Not that I remember.
Do you need to look at your records again?
Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am.
No, you never heard of Turning Point from the Rosenbaums about the girls attending there?
No, ma'am.
And what program did they tell you they were attending at Bethany Baptist? What type of program did they tell you they were attending? That Jennifer Rosenbaum told you the girls were attending?
It would be like a part-time.
Do you remember how many days that was?
No, ma'am.
If looking at something, would that help refresh your recollection?
Don't remember noting the days.
Okay, would this help?
Yes, ma'am.
Would that help refresh you? You could do this one.
Okay, yeah. I don't have the amount of days. Just that it was going to be part-time.
And at some point, you called Bethany Baptist.
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you find out about the girls being enrolled in?
And that they were not.
So when she mentioned on September the 2nd that Layla was hurt or injured at daycare, would that be true based on what you learned about their attendance at daycare? Would that be possible?
No, ma'am.
Now, Ms. Mull asked you about trips. Outside of what the defendants told you about trips, did you ever get any outside proof that they had gone on any trips?
No, it would just be a conversation between us because we have to get approval.
Did you ever see any plane tickets, any bus tickets, any train tickets about trips that had the girl's name on it?
Not that I remember.
Did you ever get any pictures from trips to South Dakota or Hilton Head or wherever?
Honestly, do not remember. She would often send pictures. I don't remember receiving photos.
And Ms. Mull talked to you about the girls being happy and excited to be at the Rosenbaums.
Yes, ma'am.
Were they happy and excited to be with the Browns?
They were okay at the Browns. They weren't there for a long period of time, but they were doing well there.
Did you ever, in your report, notate any signs of maltreatment when they were with the Browns?
No, ma'am.
How about the Lamberts? How did the girls feel about being with the Lamberts that you were able to observe?
Oh, they were doing good with Miss Lambert.
Do you ever have any signs of maltreatment when they were with Miss Lambert? Outside of the concern she brought about the defendants.
No, ma'am.
Now, the issue with Layla's leg and when it was broken. Do you know who you spoke to at the hospital?
I'm not sure. I can't remember if it was a doctor or just a nurse, but I remember calling that next morning to call in, see about the hard cast and when that would be put on and the healing process.
Did Ms. Rosenbaum or Joseph Rosenbaum ever voice concerns about paying for how they would pay for this treatment and cast for Layla?
No, ma'am.
Who would pay for that?
Their insurance,
Which was what?
Amerigroup.
Which is who?
Oh, Medicaid.
So there wasn't an issue about the defendants having to pay for anything?
Correct.
And Ms. Moe asked you, let me ask you, did you ever hear any complaints or concerns from the Rosenbaums regarding Millie falling off a ladder?
Honestly, I don't remember having a conversation about a ladder.
What about Layla falling off a ladder?
No, ma'am.
Off of chairs, on top of beds?
Not that I remember.
When you asked about any injuries to these girls, would it be fair to say it was school or just in playground? Were those what you, I guess, are those the only explanations you got for any injuries you observed on the girls?
You want to check the leading witness?
Response?
I can try to rephrase, Judge. You testified that you received, I guess, explanation for injuries from daycare, from bathtub, from, I think, a scratch from a fall in the pool, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Were there any other reasons that you were given as to why these girls may have injuries on them?
No, besides those, it was typically like, it's like just accidents, but those were usually those were the excuses given to me,
And
or the reasoning.
I want to be clear. On November the 2nd, did you undress Layla?
No, ma'am.
So if Layla had bruises on her body, would you have seen them?
No, ma'am.
And in regards to Millie on November the 17th, I think Ms. Moe said you said something about it. You said it didn't look like a hit to you.
I guess I don't remember saying that.
Are you a doctor?
No, ma'am.
Do you have any training in child abuse? As far as the medical?
No, ma'am.
What injuries to look for, what pattern bruising is, do you have any training in that whatsoever?
Oh, no, ma'am.
Nothing further.
You stated to Ms. Young, Ms. Brown, Ms. White, you stated to Ms. Young that on the 17th, when you talked to Millie in private about what had happened, she said she fell off gymnastics.
Yes, ma'am.
Isn't it true that what she in fact said is that she didn't remember, she said she could have come from falling outside today when she was playing?
I don't remember that.
Well, let me show you a copy of your statement and see if that refreshes your recollection. You remember
Yes.
giving a statement on
Yes,
November
ma'am.
18th?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you agree that your memory on November 18th, 2015 is probably better than your memory today?
Yes, ma'am.
Take a look at this and see if it helps refresh your recollection. Does that help refresh your recollection?
Yes, ma'am.
Did Millie tell you she fell off gymnastic bars? In your statement, did you write that?
No, ma'am.
In your statement, isn't it in fact true that you said that it could have come from falling outside today when she was playing?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, do you recall giving a deposition in your civil case?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you recall saying at your deposition that you contacted the church and they said that they had been there, but they didn't remain at that location.
Yes,
Do you
ma'am.
recall that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That's different than what you said here, that they didn't remain at the location, but you didn't add that they had been at Bethany Church, hadn't they?
I never said they didn't attend.
Okay, so they did attend. At some point in time, they did attend Bethany Baptist Church.
To my understanding.
And in fact, you confirmed that with the church, didn't you?
When I spoke with someone, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you satisfied yourself that they were in daycare at Bethany Baptist,
But they weren't. When I called, that's when they was told that they were not enrolled.
but they told they had been enrolled, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it's fair to say that it's possible that something could have happened at daycare or at a birthday party or at church, correct?
It's possible.
And if they moved from one church to another and went to a different church daycare, it's possible that that injury could have occurred at that daycare.
It's possible.
Now, do you recall the forensic interview that Millie gave in May? Do you recall that?
I remember her having one.
Do you recall her saying she didn't like living with the Browns?
Honestly don't remember.
don't remember?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
I know she had one, but I don't remember
Okay.
everything she said in that one.
Let me just have a moment. It's fair to say, Ms. Brown, that Ms. White, it's fair to say that Miss Peggy Banks never called you and said, my visitation is being held up because of therapy. She never called you and complained about that, did she?
I don't remember having that conversation with her.
She never said to you, why are the children in therapy? She never said that to you, did she?
Honestly, I do not remember.
You don't remember her saying that?
I don't remember having that conversation.
Okay. And isn't it true that Jennifer was not responsible for setting up visitation, was she?
No.
Thank you. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
As a caseworker, do you try to work around the schedule of the foster parent?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you have to talk with the Rosenbaums to determine when their schedule would work for visitation?
Yes, ma'am.
So would they have some input in visitation?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Did they ever cancel visitation? Did the mother ever show up for visitation and the Rosenbaums had pulled out?
Not that I remember.
Thank you.
Never further conversation, you may be excused.
All right.
Yes, she was.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. You can step down and you're excused. Council Roach. State calls next witness.
State calls Diana Fleming.
Right here, please, ma'am. Right through that gate, on around the side.
Raise your right hand to be sworn. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You can put your hand down and you can take a seat. And ma'am, can you tell us your name for the record and spell it?
It's Diana, D-I-A-N-N-A, Fleming, F-L-E-M-I-N-G,
And Ms. Fleming, how are you currently employed?
with Bethany Baptist Church and Preschool.
And what is your role at Bethany Baptist Church and Preschool?
I'm the office coordinator. I oversee the records for the church and the preschool.
And are you the records custodian for Bethany Baptist Church?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the daycare program. How long has the program itself been in existence?
We're starting our 21st year in August. So we've been, like I said, over 20 years.
And is this a private daycare program?
It is a private daycare.
And what does that mean?
We're a ministry of Bethany Baptist Church. We offer classes for 2s, 3s, 4s preschool and a mom's morning out program. It is a private. We don't do any kind of scholarships or anything like that. It is a private school.
And how long, for the daycare program specifically, how long are the days for the kids at the daycare program?
It's a half-day program. It's 9 to 12, and then we do offer a lunch bunch from 12 to 1. But we have a religious exemption, so we are only allowed to keep the children 4 hours.
So you don't have any programs that last from the wee hours of the morning until late at night, correct?
No.
All right. Now tell me, what ages of children does Bethany Baptist Church have programs for?
We have a Mom's Morning Out program that starts from 9 months to 23 months. It's a 2-day-a-week program. Our preschools, we start at 2 years old, and we have 2, 3, and 4-year-old classes.
Okay. Do you have programs that run I think you mentioned the Mom's Day Out is 2 days a week. Do you have other programs that run on specific days of the week?
Other than the
Yes.
preschool, no.
Okay. Now, tell me, how does the schedule work for these preschool programs?
We follow the same calendar as the Henry County school system. We start a week later and we end a week earlier. So we usually start the second week of August.
And is there a fee to attend the daycare program?
Yes, there is.
Now, tell me, how is a child registered for the daycare program?
We do have a registration packet that the parents are required to fill out. Once they fill out the packet, we do have a registration fee because our classes are limited. So it's a first come, first serve. And once you pay that registration fee, then you are actually enrolled in the preschool.
Okay. And so if someone is enrolled in the preschool, do you have a record of that?
Yes, we do.
And what triggers you having a record for someone being in the program?
Actually, once they fill out the registration form and pay the actual fee, they're actually put into the system.
Okay. Now, do you also keep other types of records associated with the daycare program?
Yes, we have hard copies of the records and we have them in our computer system.
What about daily attendance records?
Yes, our teachers all have iPads that the attendance is marked daily. All of our classes have those.
And in 2015, how were the records kept for the daycare program?
Through the attendance on the computer.
Okay. And you said that they were on the computer. How long have they been computerized?
Probably 12 years.
And are these records something that you ordinarily keep during the course of your business?
We do.
Do you regularly keep them? Like, as in, do you do this for every single kid who comes into the daycare program?
Yes, we do.
I want to show you what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit 215. Sam, do you recognize State's Exhibit 215?
Yes.
And what do you recognize this to be?
These are our attendance records for people listed in our preschool,
Okay. And what time frame are we talking about?
2015-16.
Okay. And are these records that you yourself pulled?
Yes.
And are they a fair and accurate representation of the attendance records from 2015 and 2016?
Yes.
Did you make any modifications, alterations, or deletions to this document?
No.
Your Honor, at this time I move into evidence State's Exhibit 215. Ma'am, in reviewing these, you said these were the attendance records. Did you look specifically for specific names?
We did.
Were you asked to look for specific names?
Yes.
And I want to ask, when was the first time that you were asked to look in your records for possible attendance records?
2015.
And was it someone from the Department of Children and Family Services?
It was.
And did you look at that time?
I did.
And do you recall the names of the people that you looked for? That's okay. Do you recognize the name Millie Place?
Yes,
And is that a name that you looked for?
I did.
And did you find any evidence that there was any attendance records for Millie Place?
No.
Was there ever a registration record for Millie Place?
No,
I want to ask you about Laila Daniel. Did you also look for that name?
I did.
And was there ever any evidence of Laila Daniel attending Bethany Baptist Church?
No,
And was there ever any record of her registering for daycare at Bethany Baptist Church?
No.
You were asked to look for some other name combinations as well, correct?
I did.
Did you also look for those using the last name Clendenning?
I did.
Did you find any records of children attending under the last name Clendenning?
No,
Did you also check for Laila Rosenbaum?
Yes.
Did you find any records of any attendance for a child by the name of Laila Rosenbaum?
No.
Any registration for a child under that name?
No.
How about Millie Rosenbaum?
No.
I'll ask you both attendance. Did you find any attendance?
No.
And did you find any registration?
No.
Now, you've been there, how long have you specifically been with this particular program?
19 and a half years, be 20 years in February.
And do you remember a lot of the kids that come through that program?
Yes.
All right. Do you have any independent recollection of any children ever being inquiring about daycare at Bethany Baptist Church by any of the names that we just talked about?
No.
Did you ever process any paperwork, whether it was approved or not? Did you ever process any paperwork associated with those names?
No.
And what we're looking at in States 215, you said this was the attendance records of the children who attended.
Right.
And can you just put it up here? No.
Well, it's the parents' names and the children. I ran it both ways.
Okay. So you ran, and this is for date range beginning when, and it's behind you if you want to look. Do you see the date range?
Yes.
And what's the date range?
August 2015 to May 27, 2016.
And in these attendance records, you did not find any of the names that we've already discussed, correct?
No.
You said you also ran it under the parents' names, correct?
That's correct.
And what names, was that Jennifer Rosenbaum
Right.
and Joseph Rosenbaum?
It was.
In any of the records that you reviewed, did you find any indication of them registering any children?
No, not in our records.
Is there ever any indication that the Rosenbaums ever even attended Bethany Baptist Church at all?
I didn't find any written record of that.
Prior to the Department of Children and Family Services contacting you, had you ever heard the names of Jennifer or Joseph Rosenbaum?
No.
Now, if a child had attended, in order for a child to attend any daycare class, do they have to be approved?
Yes.
So the registration paperwork must be completed, correct?
Right.
Is there ever a situation where a child is allowed to attend daycare prior to the registration being completed?
No.
Is this a situation where parents can just drop their kids off for the day?
No. We have a secure building, so they do have to go through the registration process. The first day of school, we actually take a picture of the child just so that our staff will know, can put those two together. And then the parents are actually given security tags. So when they pick them up, they have to show us that. If not, it's just a security feature.
Are you aware, and I know that we discussed that Layla and Millie, per the records, weren't there. Were you ever aware of a person by the name of Laila Daniel ever getting into a fight with another child at the daycare program?
No.
Now, are there ever situations where you require, let me ask you this. Is a birth certificate generally required for attendance at Bethany Baptist Church?
No.
Are there ever situations where you may ask for more information?
If during the registration process we notice that it is a foster child or defects is involved, we'll ask for a copy of the temporary guardianship. If there's a divorce custody case, we'll ask for a copy of that, just to, for our records, just to make sure that we do have it on file in case a non-custodial parent comes up, or it just depends on what they mark when they register the child.
Okay. And would a birth certificate specifically be required?
No.
So it would be more about the defect paperwork?
Right.
Okay. Do you ever recall in 2015 a situation where a registration was on hold because of birth certificate paperwork?
Not to my knowledge.
I have nothing further at this time.
You don't have any written record of the Rosenbaums coming to your church, is that correct?
No, ma'am, not to my knowledge.
No written record, but people are free to come in and out of your church, correct?
Oh, our church, yes, ma'am. Adults, yes. Children, they have to be checked in securely.
But the Rosenbaums could have come to your church.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
wouldn't necessarily know it.
That's correct.
And interested parents can pick up packets with regards to the child care. They can pick up packets and take them home for review, can't they?
Yes, ma'am, and they're online.
And they're online too.
That's correct.
And they can inquire and learn about how your program operates, can't
Yes,
they?
ma'am.
And they can decide to go somewhere else because their needs are not being met by a half-day program, correct?
That's correct.
And so you wouldn't have any record of that, would you?
No.
And you are not Turning Point Church, are you?
No, ma'am.
That's a different church.
That is a different church.
Thank you. I have nothing to add.
Just one question. However, if they were actually enrolled in the program, you would have records of it?
Yes.
Nothing further.
Okay, anything else? Thank you, ma'am. You can step down, and any objections to this being excused?
No.
All right, and you're free to go. Sure. All right. State calls next witness.
Statement called Stormy Hendricks.
Right, your please, ma'am. Just walk all the way through that front gate. Make your way around this way. Fit it this way. No.
Ma'am, can you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth and the whole truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Please lower your hand and state and spell your first and last name.
Stormy Hendricks.
And Miss- I'm sorry.
Did you want me to spell it?
Yes.
STORMYHENDRICKS.
And Ms. Hendricks, how are you employed?
I am the director of Ola Academy
And how long have you been the director of Ola Academy?
since August 12, 2012.
And does part of your duties as the director include being the custodian of the records?
Yes.
And the records at Ola Academy, how are they kept?
We keep them on a computer, and we also have printable roll sheets that myself or my assistant does, plus my teachers.
And can you kind of tell us briefly about Ola Academy's program?
Yeah, we have a state-funded program. We also do private pre-K. We have children that attend from 6 weeks to 12 years of age. We do before and after school also.
And is that do you have a full-time program there?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you have a part-time program?
No, ma'am.
And if a child is enrolled in your program, how many days a week would they be attending?
5 days.
5 days, okay. Do you have programs during the summer months?
Yes, ma'am.
And what does that program look like?
It's basically the same. The only thing that is different is our Georgia pre-K students don't attend unless they attend our summer camp program, which is ages 5 to 12.
And how many days a week is that program?
5.
On average, about how many kids do you have at Ola Academy?
An average is about 121 to 125 every day.
Okay. And tell me about the registration process for Ola Academy. How does that work?
You have to come in and get an enrollment package, and you'll pay a registration fee in order before you can actually start, and we go over your paperwork and make sure everything's filled out correctly.
And once you've filled out the paperwork and paid your enrollment fee, what happens with that information?
Everything's inputted into the computer system, and then every week, of course, we print out new roll sheets that show us what new children are coming and all that.
Would your information be on those roll sheets if you have not completed the registration packet or paid a fee?
No.
And in regards, you said you're private funded and state funded.
Yes,
What
ma'am.
does that mean?
Georgia Pre-K is it's state-funded program that every year it runs from August to May. So it's and it's also, every student that attends the Georgia Pre-K, also the state has records of who attended and how many days they attend and so forth. Our private Pre-K is our Abeka program. It's a little bit more flexible in hour-wise. You can come a little bit later than 8, and you don't have to attend every single day. But Georgia Pre-K, they require you not to miss so many days a week.
So if they're not Georgia Pre-K, but they're on the other side, I guess it's private,
Yes, ma'am.
are they still required to fill out that registration form?
Yes, ma'am.
Can a child attend Ola Academy for any amount of time without filling out that registration form?
No, ma'am.
And once they've done that, are they put into your system?
Yes, ma'am.
At some point in time, were you asked to pull your records in regards to the year 2015?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall when you were first asked to do that?
I was asked to do it when, let's see, this is July, so I think it was the end of May
Of this year?
of this year.
Prior to that, do you know whether or not anyone else had inquired about the registration of Millie Place and Laila Daniel at Ola Academy?
No, ma'am.
And did you in fact pull those records?
Yes, ma'am.
Let me show you what's marked as states number 216. And I ask you to flip through that and let me know if you recognize it.
Yes, ma'am.
And what is states 216?
This is our actual attendance record where it shows the parents every day that they have to check in, check out. This is started in 2015.
And are those records kept in the normal course of business at Ola Academy?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you the person that keeps those records?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd ask the state's exhibit number 216 to get maybe into evidence.
Minute 216.
Were you asked, what specifically were you asked to look for in regards to these records for 2015?
I was asked to look for the children's name by their last name and also the parent's name.
Do you recall the names that you were given?
I know the little girl's first name was Lila, Lily.
Layla?
Layla,
Okay.
yeah.
Do you recall being given the name of Laila Daniel?
Yes.
Do you recall being given the name of Millie Place?
No.
Do you recall being given the name of Millie Rosenbaum?
Yes.
Do you remember being given the name of Millie Clendenning or Layla Clendenning?
Layla.
Getting any other names?
No, ma'am.
You said you were also looked up by the parent's name.
Just their last name. Yes, ma'am.
And was that last name Rosenbaum?
Yes, ma'am.
And what date range did you look at for those records?
I looked back from 2015 all the way up to 2018.
Do you remember what month in 2015 you began to look?
June.
Okay. And in pulling those records, did you review them?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you find any of those names that we've discussed here today?
No, ma'am.
To your knowledge, did a child by any of those names we discussed ever attend Ola Academy?
No, ma'am.
Did you show any registration for any parent under the name of Jennifer Rosenbaum or Joseph Rosenbaum?
No, ma'am.
To your knowledge, did Jennifer Rosenbaum or Joseph Rosenbaum have children enrolled at Ola Academy at any time?
They didn't.
Where's Ola Academy located?
Highway 81 East, McDonough.
Nothing further, thank you.
Nothing? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
It is for the students.
Yes.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a lunch break. We're going to come back at 1:30. At 1:30, we'll be back in the jury holding room, ready to go. Thank you.
I've worked with kids a lot.
Did she behave as 2-year-olds that you'd worked with before?
Usually 2-year-olds are very hyper and bouncing off the walls, don't stay still, getting into trouble, so she was not like that at all.
Did you ever see her prior to this trial class, ever see her running around or getting out on the floor or getting on any of the equipment at the gym?
No.
Were parents just allowed to run around and let their kids hang out on the floor and get on the mats and different equipment?
No.
Was there supervision that had to be in place during the times that they were on the floor?
Yes, so a coach had to be out on the floor with them at all times.
And at any time during that class, you said how many stations did you have for the class, that trial class that Layla participated in?
There were supposed to be 4.
And how did she do during that trial class?
She didn't seem like she wanted to do it at all.
And when you say she seemed like she didn't want to do it at all, what did you observe?
She was just tearing up and just didn't seem like she wanted to be out there. So I asked the foster mom if she was okay. And so they ended up sitting down not long after the class started.
When you asked the defendant, Jennifer Rosenbaum, if Layla was okay, did she respond to you?
Yes.
What did she say?
She just said that her actual biological mother did a lot of drugs or something like that. So that's the reason why she has problems.
Had you seen Layla exhibit any signs of what you call problems prior to this trial class?
I just knew that she was really quiet and standoffish.
And did she finish the class?
No.
What happened during the course of the class?
We started off doing a warm-up, and then we usually go to the floor station, and then that station mainly consisted of just 4 rolls.
And so let's start with the floor work. What type of work were you doing with Layla on the floor?
So there's a cheese mat, so it's like a downward incline, and so you get up on it, and we tell them to tuck their neck, but they're look at their belly button basically, and then do a forward roll, look at their belly button and roll over. And so there's just multiple stations for a 2-year-old. A forward roll is pretty difficult, so we just keep doing the same thing over and
Was
over.
she able to tuck her head and roll down that wedge mat?
Yes, I believe so.
What other activity did she participate in?
That was 4 years ago, so those are the only things that I remember doing is just forward rolls that day.
And did any of the forward roll activity that Layla participated in involve being on the beat?
No,
Did it involve being on the bars?
not that I remember. I don't remember doing any other activities other than the floor station mainly. That's all I remember actually participating in that day with her.
The floor station?
Mm-hmm.
And does the floor station involve any of that equipment that I just talked about?
No balance beam, bars that I can recall.
It doesn't involve those?
Yeah.
After that class, let me ask you, during that class, out of the 4 stations, how many stations did Layla participate in?
I only remember her doing one that, it was either 1 or 2, but the one that I remember is a floor station, so that is the only one I remember.
During the time that she was participating in this trial class, did she ever fall down at all?
No.
Did she ever appear to injure herself doing any of the things that you had her doing in the trial class?
No.
Did you have a discussion, did you notice whether or not she was limping or had any injury prior to starting the class?
No.
Did you have any conversation with the defendant, Jennifer Rosenbaum, about her having any prior experience doing gymnastics?
Yeah, I don't think she ever did anything prior to doing gymnastics. Like, she would take her to the house and work on some like positions that we worked on in class during like warm up. That's the only thing that she did, but I don't think she took any other classes like prior.
After that trial class, did you see Layla again?
Yes,
When was the next time you saw Layla?
the following week.
And when you saw her the following week, how did she appear? What did you observe about her?
She had a cast on her.
And did you ask about the cast?
Yes, I asked like how it happened, and she said that she was talking to her husband, and her husband noticed that she was like limping, and so she took her to the doctor and said that she was a trooper about it. Basically, wasn't like upset or anything during the time that she like got the cast on.
And when you say she, do you mean the defendant, Jennifer Rosenbaum?
Yes.
Did she ever mention that Layla had hurt herself the day during that trial class at gym tech?
No.
And how did Layla appear when you saw her with the cast?
I don't really remember how she acted whatsoever. So I think I remember asking her like, "Oh, are you okay? Like, how did your cast feel?" or something like that. Something about the cast, and she didn't say anything back to me.
And where was Layla at when you saw her? Was she standing up, sitting down, being held? Where was she talking about her having this cast?
I don't remember. I just remember her walking in, and then she was walking behind the foster mom. And then I don't know if she like sat down or anything after. Like, I don't remember.
Now, are you familiar with gym tech's injury report form back then in 2015?
Yes, like if you're ever like injured, the coach is supposed to go fill out like a waiver and then write down like what they observed and like how they got actually injured and the treatments for it, and then you're supposed to have the signature of the parent.
Did you ever have to fill out a form in regards to Layla name?
No.
At any point during the time that Layla was in your trial class or at the gym, did you ever leave her and the defendant, Jennifer Rosenbaum, alone in like the matted area where the equipment was, where they would have access without you observing them on the mat?
No, there's like a little divider, basically.
Nothing further at this time.
Okay. Cross.
Just going to get up to the lawyer screen, I just have a number of questions for you. So things don't always happen according to policy, right?
Correct.
She was supposed to sign a waiver, and you say you don't know whether she did or not.
Correct. It was based off of honesty back in the day.
So even if it wasn't allowed to take a trial class without a waiver, it can happen.
I mean, essentially, yes, at the time it could have.
And even if it's not allowed for parents and kids to use apparatus without a coach on the floor, it can happen, can't it?
It could if I'm not out there, but I was definitely out there the entire time. Like, I take my job seriously. I stay out there the entire time with the students, basically.
Some parents arrive early, don't they?
Like, I think I was in school at the time, so I got there pretty early, and I would hang out.
And the week after Layla broke her leg was October 26th, isn't that correct?
I'm guessing. I don't remember the exact date, so I have no idea.
Exact date. What's the date of the class that she took with you?
I have no idea. I did like classes throughout the week, and my schedule would always change, so I really have no idea. It would just depend on semester to semester of which days I actually coached.
So as you sit here today, you don't know when it is that this trial class took place?
No, that was 4 years ago.
Would you create a role for kids that are doing a trial class?
I don't remember how I did it then, but now whenever people, like before I quit, essentially, I would actually write the names of the students down and put trial and then the day that they actually trialed. So 4 years ago, I'm not really sure what I did back 4 years ago.
And how, if somebody was doing a trial class, how would you know to put their name on the roll? Let me ask. Yeah, how would you determine whose name to put on the roll for a trial class?
So, like, I mean, now if they came in, like, we have a little, like, sheet of paper that has their name on it, and then we started, like, writing it down.
And after you're done with your role, who would you give that to? Did you keep it, or did you do something else?
Yeah, we would keep it in the binders, and then, you know, after, like, a certain period of time, I'm not sure what they actually did with them. I don't know if they kept them. I'm not sure. So,
When you say they, who do you mean?
the owners, so I'm not sure what the owners would do after, like, so many months would go by, because, like, you would keep track of the attendees, basically, like, how long that they've been in it, and then if they haven't done it, you would scratch their name out, basically. So, but every coach was different.
But that would be given to the owners to report how they went.
So,
That would be given to the owners, that list that you.
so it, like, yeah, the owners, yes. Sorry.
Thank you.
But these binders, these were what happened more recently, correct?
No, we still had the binders back in the day because, like, once they started, you had to like keep track of who was actually like an active participant, and plus, if you have so many students, you need to know their names anyways.
Did you not say to Ms. Young that you don't remember what system was used back then in 2015?
You always had the binders, though. You always kept records, like if they were.
Did you say you didn't remember?
If I put the trial's name down that day, I knew she took the class, but I don't know if I actually wrote like physically her name down in the trial, like saying that she did the trial class.
Anything else?
Nothing further from the state.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. You can step down. Any objection to witness being excused?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
Okay, and you're free to go. State will call next witness.
State will call Michelle Flynn.
Michelle Flynn. Right up here, please.
Please raise your right hand. You swear affirm the testimony you're about to give should be the truth and the whole truth, so help you God.
I do.
Please lower your hand. Please tell me, can you please state and spell your first and last name?
Yes, my name's Michelle Flynn, Michelle. Last name Flynn, F as in Frank, Linn.
And if you could please tell the ladies and gentlemen how you are employed.
I'm the Deputy Chief Investigator of the Special Victims Unit with the DeKalb County District Attorney's Office.
And how long have you held that position?
I've held the position for a little over 2 years.
And what duties do you have as a chief investigator with the DeKalb County DA's office?
I oversee investigations for domestic violence and sexual assault, crimes against children, any sexual exploitation of children, as well as juvenile court investigations and all of our elder exploitation financial crimes.
And at some point, as part of your duties, were you requested to assist with the case involving the defendants Jennifer and Joseph Rosenbaum?
Yes.
And what requests were made in regards to that case?
Specifically to review bank records that we had ordered through subpoena.
And what in particular were you looking for in regards to those records?
I was asked to look for any information on any daycare that may have been purchased or paid for involving Jennifer or Joseph Rosenbaum's accounts, as well as any purchases that would have been made regarding travel at the time, and if there was anything else that stood out to me.
And what records did you receive in order to fulfill this request?
We did a court order for the credit reports of both Jennifer and Joseph Rosenbaum to begin with, and after reviewing their credit report from Equifax, then we are able to take the accounts that are on there and determine exactly which accounts we need to then further subpoena to get those records.
And did you find certain accounts that you subpoenaed?
That is correct.
What accounts did you subpoena records?
I subpoenaed records from Bank of America, from Citibank, USAA, I believe it was Pt.1, First Premier Bank, and Capital One.
And do you recall where you received, what records did you receive from any of those subpoenas? Did you receive all of those records you just went over?
No, I did not.
Which records did you in fact receive?
We received records from Bank of America, from Citibank, from USAA, and we received letters from Capital One, First Premier Bank, and the Credit One.
And the letters that you received as to those three accounts you just talked about, were they accompanied with any records?
No. Capital One said they did not have anything on record. I believe Credit One, I'm trying to remember this correctly, Credit One said that they could not comply with a subpoena from out of state because they were not an institution that was in the state of Georgia, and we would have to follow a specific procedure for that. And we decided not to go further with that. First Premier Bank, I had two separate letters from them. One was stating that they did not find any accounts in their names, and another stating that we had to comply with their process in their state as well.
And outside of the bank records, did you receive any other records to review as part of the request for your investigative part of this case?
Yes, Medicaid records, as well as Department of Community Health records.
And did you receive records from the Department of Health?
Yes.
At this time, you're on the state with tender into evidence, States Exhibit 217, and self-authenticating records from the Health Department.
Admitted.
Showing what's been marked and tendered into evidence, States Exhibit number 217. Do you recognize those, and are those the records that you received?
Yes.
And were you asked to look at specific things in regards to those records you received from the Health Department?
Yes.
And what were you asked to look at?
There was specifically a form in there that actually asked whether or not they went to child care or daycare.
And I'm going to start with the first child. Who did you receive records from the health department for?
Millie Place and Laila Daniel.
And I'm going to start with Linda first. And from these records, are you able to determine who took them to this visit and on what date they were?
Yes.
And which child are we talking about in this particular portion of the record?
This is Millie Clendening.
And on what date was she taken to the health department?
On October 22nd, 2015.
And who was she taken by?
This was Jennifer, and it says Jennifer Joseph Rosenbaum.
And as part of those records, was this license included?
Yes, it was.
And who's that? Whose license is that?
Jennifer Rosenbaum.
And you indicate that you were asked to look at a form. Is this a form that you look at?
Correct.
And specifically the question regarding question number
I believe it's 14, right?
And if you could please, what was that question?
Does your child eat meals provided by a child care center or at school? And it was checked off yes.
And did you look at that same information in regards to Layla?
Yes.
Is that top form?
Correct.
And on what date was she taken?
Also on 10/22/2015,
And who does it indicate was the person that took her to this appointment?
Jennifer Joseph Rosenbaum.
And did you review the same form in regards to Layla?
I did.
And as to question number 14, regarding daycare or at school, what was the indication in regards to meals being provided?
Yes.
And I'm actually looking further up at number 11. What is that question asking?
Check all your child has had in the last month. And it's
And what are the things that are listed?
diarrhea, constipation, vomiting, nausea, difficulty chewing or swallowing, unable to feed self, dental problems, special diet, health or medical problem, food allergy or problem, or none.
And which one was checked out?
None.
And I think you said you received bank records as well.
That's correct.
And what purpose were you reviewing those records for?
I'm sorry?
For what purpose were you reviewing those records? Sorry.
To determine whether or not there was any evidence of daycare that had been purchased or that a payment had been made to a daycare or childcare facility, as well as any travel or medical treatment.
At this time, Judge, the state will tender into evidence State's Exhibit 218, which is self-authenticating business records from USAA.
Any objection?
No objection.
And with 218. Yes.
I'm showing you what's March State's number 218. And what records are those?
These are the records we received from USAA.
And who are the holders for those accounts?
Jennifer Michelle Rosenbaum and Joseph M. Rosenbaum.
And did you review those records in regards to the charges that we spoke about?
Yes.
I'll ask you first, in reviewing of those records, did you see any charges for Gentech?
Yes, I did.
And how many charges for Gentech did you observe in those records?
I believe there were 3, maybe 4 total. I can look back if you want me to be specific.
No, yes, did you
Okay.
saw total, I guess, charges for Gentech?
Yes, I did.
Did you see charges for travel out of town that appeared to be from out of town?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And where was that to?
Specifically, there was some in South Dakota. There was also a small charge in Hilton Head. There was something in Washington.
As far as you indicated you were looking for other types of charges, being specifically daycare,
Correct.
did you find any charges in regards to that account that indicated that appeared to be purchases or payments for daycare?
No, I did not.
Did you see any charges for any vendors or businesses by the name of Ola Academy?
No, I did not.
Did you see any charges in regards to payments for Bethany Baptist Church?
No, I did not.
Did you see any charges in regards to Turning Point Baptist Church?
No, I did not.
And in regards to, that was daycare. Those particular records, were you reviewing them for other types of charges?
Yes, for medical treatment, to see if there was any medical treatment that appeared on here.
Specifically, did you see any charges, did you see any medical, what appeared to be medical charges for a doctor's office, urgent care, hospital, prescriptions, anything of that nature?
There was only one charge for Quest Diagnostics.
And do you recall what date that was?
I do not.
If you need to review it.
It was on 11/17/2015.
And in reviewing those records, did you see anything else that appeared to be for medical purposes?
No, ma'am, not until up until the actual date in question, which was November 17th, 2015.
And was that Quest Diagnostic?
Correct.
That you were talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
And this time, state attendance evidence states exhibit 219, which are self-authenticating business records from the city.
Amen.
And if you could review state's exhibit number 219. Do you recognize those as records you received from Citibank?
Yes.
And did you review those as well for the similar type charges that we've been discussing thus far?
Yes, I did.
And once again, did you see any charges for the purposes of, that appear to be for the purposes of daycare?
No.
Any charges for Ola Academy, Bethany Baptist, or Turning Point?
No, I did not.
What about for medical treatment?
No.
On any particular date?
No, ma'am.
At this time, state intended to evidence self-authenticating records from Bank of America, which will be state exhibit 220.
Amen.
If you could review state's exhibit 220. And are those the bank's records that you received from Citibank?
From Bank of America.
I'm sorry, Bank of America.
Yes.
And same thing, did you review those charges for daycare and medical treatment?
Yes, I did.
And did you observe anything that appeared to be charges for any type of daycare or any type of medical treatment?
No, ma'am.
And so we talked about the bank records and the Medicaid and the health department records. Did you receive and review any other types of records?
The Medicaid records.
And Judge, at this time, the state will tender into evidence State's Exhibit 221, which is self-authenticating Medicaid records.
Amen.
And did you receive these in disc form, Investigator Flynn?
That's correct.
And were you able to do a printout from those discs?
Yes.
Shown attached to State's Exhibit 221. Are those the records that you received from Medicaid and then the printouts from those discs?
Yes, it is.
And who did you receive Medicaid information for?
Both Millie Place and Laila Daniel.
And I want to back up just a little bit. When we're talking about daycare, did you receive a request in regards to the locations of Ola Academy and Bethany Baptist?
Yes.
And what was that request?
To drive a route from the defendant's home to the Henry County Courthouse.
And did you do that?
Yes, I did.
What address were you provided for the defendant's home?
1521 Lincoln Terrace, McDonough.
And is that located in Henry County?
Yes, it is.
At this time, Judge, for demonstrative purposes, would it assist you to look at a map to describe the route that you took from the defendant's home to the Henry County Courthouse?
Yes.
You marking this as State's Exhibit 223? 222, thank you. For demonstrative purposes. Now, check the report first.
Any objection? Admit for that purpose.
Let's just say that one is easier right here. To the old salary. So, in State's Exhibit 222, what are we looking at here?
This is a map of the route that I took from the defendant's residence to Henry County Superior Court.
And on the course of that route, what did you pass? And there's a pointer right here.
I passed Ola Academy as I was heading back west, back to Henry County from her residence. That came up on my right, and then Bethany Baptist was just right down from that. This is about a 10-mile drive, about 20 minutes.
And you're saying from the defendant's home to Ola Academy?
No, ma'am. From the residence to the courthouse is about 10 miles total, 20 minutes, but halfway here is about right at the Ola Academy, between Ola and Bethany.
And did you pass both Ola and Bethany Academy as you went from the defendant's house to the courthouse?
Yes, I did.
So this is case number 2. On today, at this time, the state would be tendering into that evidence states 223, which is a self-authenticating document from Turning Point Church. On today, did you get a request in regards to investigation for Turning Point Church?
Yes, I did.
Let me show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 223. And what was that request?
To go out to meet with the administrative and finance manager regarding whether or not Millie Place or Laila Daniel may have attended childcare at Turning Point.
And did you receive State's 223 as a result of that request?
Yes, I did.
And is that a letter from Turning Point?
Yes, it is.
I'd ask that you
Any objection? Admit. Any recall?
And if you can read this letter that you received from Turning Point, and I'll start from the top.
To whom it may concern, Turning Point Church and its children's ministry has never offered a daycare service on Sunday, Saturday, or Monday through Friday. Outside of our weekly Sunday children's service, the only other thing we have ever offered was a summer camp which took place Monday through Friday during the summer months of 2017 and 2018. Our records are only accurate through the last 18 months. Therefore, we have no available record of Laila Daniel or Millie Place attending our Sunday children's services during the months of June to November of 2015.
So according to this record, the Turning Point have had a daycare for Millie Place or Laila Daniel to attend during the months of June to December of 2015.
That they did? I'm sorry.
Yes, would they have had a daycare for
No, they
them
would
to
not have.
attend?
No.
Now I'm going to turn your attention to the Medicaid records that you have there.
Mhm.
And in those records, what's provided in those records?
It is a Medicaid claims history is the title of it, but it is basically defining every treatment that has been given to the specific children individually. It's the date of the service, the date that it was paid, the diagnosis code that was given, the doctor that was treating the child, as well as a provider ID and what amount was owed.
And I'm going to start with Millie Place.
Okay.
I'm going to skip down to 2015. starting in April, and I'm starting at the top, and are those columns describing the different services that you talked, the information that was provided?
Correct.
And so column 1 through 3 is the number and name of the person,
Correct.
and that next column is the claim number,
Yes,
and then the column after that is the date of service column.
that's correct.
And so sliding down to April of 2015, was there service provided on April 26th of 2015?
Yes, there was.
And what was the service that was provided?
I'm not sure if I can see the exact service, but I can see the diagnosis
What was
or
the
the code.
What's the code?
Acute pharyngitis.
And then the next column, what is it describing?
The number.
No, the column after the number.
The culture screen only, strep A assay with optic, and office/outpatient visit, comma, new.
And then not the column with the numbers, that column.
I believe that's the doctor's name, Lyra Ratmeyer.
And then we can go down to September. Now I can see if I can small with the dates on there. Are you able to see those dates?
Yes,
September the 26th. Was there a date of service?
yes, there was.
And what was the procedure that was performed on the 26th?
Looks like culture, comma, bacteria, comma, other is for one of them. Another is the strep A assay with optic. And then another that says office/outpatient visit, comma, new.
And who was it provided for that?
Lyra Ratmeyer.
And then moving down to October 12th.
Yes.
And what services were provided? Or the diagnosis that is in the column?
There's not a diagnosis listed there, but there were multiple,
Yeah,
yes,
the procedure, there are multiple.
multiple services.
And who was the provider for those?
Kimberly Purcell.
And then after October the 12th, what's the next date that this Medicaid claims show as being used?
October 28th.
And what type of procedure?
Sure I'm looking at the right row. Office/outpatient visit, comma, new.
And who was the provider?
Can you go back over to the other side? Okay, now you can move back to that. Henry County Board of Health, I believe, if I'm reading the correct row.
And then after the October the 28th, what was the next date of service?
November 19th, 2015.
Okay. And what type of procedure was performed for that visit?
Office/outpatient visit, comma, new.
And where was that?
Stephen Leard.
And showing you, are these the same type of records, but this time for who?
For Laila Daniel.
And we'll start with, is there a date of service starting in June?
Yes, on June 13th, 2015.
And what was the procedure for that? What was the diagnosis?
Nausea with vomiting,
And what was the, I guess, procedure or services that were provided?
office/outpatient,
And who was the doctor for that?
John Eames.
And was there a visit after that? And
Well, and then the other service on that same date is catheterized for urine specimen, John Eames.
what's the next date of service?
6/29/2015.
And same thing, what was the diagnosis for that?
It looks like vaccination for DTaP.
And who was the provider for that?
Stephen Leard.
And the next visit after that, or the next usage for the card after 629.
10/19/2015.
So in between June of 2015 and October 19th of 2015, was there any uses of that Medicaid card?
No, ma'am.
Did there appear to be any use on August the 12th of 2015?
No, ma'am.
What was the service that was provided on October the 19th?
X-ray exam of thigh.
And who was that service provided by?
Laura Patrick.
After October the 19th, what is the next date of service?
October 20th.
And what was the procedure that's listed for that?
Treatment of tibia fracture.
And who is the provider?
Gilbert Duck.
And then the next date after the 20th.
October 23rd.
And what was the procedure for that date?
Application of long leg cast.
And the provider?
Charles Coppinger.
And the next date?
10/28.
And what was that procedure?
It says office or / outpatient visit.
And the provider for that?
I'm sorry, can you go back over? Henry County Health Department.
And the next date of service?
October 30th.
And what was the procedure for that date?
X-ray exam of lower leg.
And who was the provider for that?
Charles Coppinger.
And the next date of service?
November 13th, 2015.
And what was that procedure for?
X-ray exam of lower leg.
And who was the provider for that?
Charles Coppinger.
And the final date of service?
November 17th, 2015.
And that procedure?
Emergency department visit.
And the provider for that?
Charles Evans. There are others listed as well on that same date.
Does there appear to ever be a date of service for November the 12th?
No, ma'am.
Between October the 30th and November the 13th, are there any dates of service?
No, ma'am.
Nothing further at this time.
Cross.
Good afternoon. I just have a couple of questions for you. You subpoenaed Bank of America, Citibank, USAA, Credit One, First Premier, and Capital One.
Yes, ma'am.
And you did not get any records from, because you did not do an out-of-state subpoena for First Premier and Capital One
Yes, ma'am. And Credit One.
and Credit One.
Well, I'm sorry. Capital One responded saying they did not have any accounts in those names. So I did get a response from Capital One. First Premier also provided me with a response in one letter saying that they did not have any accounts in those individuals' names, but another response saying they could not comply with our subpoena.
And Credit One said they could not comply with your subpoena.
That's correct.
So we have two entities. And where did you get this information to know to go to Citibank, USAA, Credit One, First Premier, and Capital One?
From the credit report.
So at some point, they had accounts on the credit report reflecting the fact that they had accounts with these 6 entities.
That's correct.
And you checked all but 2 because you didn't have the subpoena complied with. But you checked all but 2, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you didn't check for cash transactions, did you?
No, ma'am.
So if any payments had been made to Gymtech or to daycare by cash, that would not account for it, correct?
It would just show a cash debit.
But you don't have that, do you?
It was in the USAA records. Yes,
In
ma'am.
the USAA records for cash debit. But if cash had been used without
Correct.
taking it from a debit account, if it had been taken out of somebody's pocket, you wouldn't know that, would you?
That is correct.
So you don't have any accounts for cash transactions.
No, ma'am.
And it's fair to say that daycare and gym tech could have been paid for by cash or through Credit One, correct?
That is correct.
And it's possible that it could have been paid by First Premier or Cap, correct?
That is correct.
And you don't have any records of that, do you?
No, ma'am.
I want to talk a bit about this Quest Diagnostics. Did you investigate any further?
Yes, I did.
And what was the date of posting of the Quest Diagnostics bill?
The posting, I'd have to look at the records again, but it was actually on November 17th, I
It
believe.
was on November 17th.
Yes,
When
ma'am.
was the Quest Diagnostics treatment received?
I'm not sure. I would have to look
Do
at
you
the
have
records.
here?
I have the bank records, yes, ma'am.
Would that help assist you?
Yes. Thank you. It appears it was both posted and done on November 17th, 2015.
Do you have a record of that?
We did subpoena that information. I don't have it right here.
You don't have it right here?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
I mean, I can tell you what it was, if that's what you're...
What was it?
A metabolic screening that was done on Jennifer Rosenbaum.
And metabolic screen is a blood test.
Correct.
And what you saw on Quest is that they had that blood test that day, correct, on November 17th?
I'm just looking at bank records right now, so I don't know. Yes, based on the bank records, it appears that it happened on that particular day, and it was posted on that same day.
Isn't it true that on the bank records, what you're seeing is a posting date and not necessarily a treatment date?
No, ma'am. Over to the right, it usually will tell you the date that it was actually specifically used. And in this particular it says a debit card purchase, November 17th, 2015, showing a posting date of November 17th as well.
But that just shows that it was purchased, it was paid for at that time, correct?
Yes, on that specific date.
It was paid for on
And
November
posted.
17th.
Yes.
It doesn't say that the test was performed on November 17th.
No, ma'am.
In fact, this could be a test that occurred in the past and was just being paid on the 17th, correct?
Perhaps, yes.
Let's talk about the Turning Point records. The Turning Point records show that they don't have records past 18 months, correct?
Correct.
And so while they do have Sunday daycare, they don't have records for 2015, correct?
That's correct.
So they were unable to tell you whether Millie and Layla had ever attended, correct?
Right.
Now, these Medicaid records indicate history claims made. If medical treatment was sought and was not paid for by Medicare, that would not be reflected in the Medicaid presentation that you made a little earlier.
If the person chose to use their own money for that,
Yes.
That's correct.
So it would not be reflected.
That's correct.
And in fact, there isn't any, I did not hear you say anything about Piedmont Henry visit for Millie on November 17th, 2015.
Correct.
And she was seen at Piedmont Henry on November 17th, 2015,
I can look at the Medicaid records, but I don't recall that.
because it wasn't there, right?
I don't recall that. I'm happy to look at the, yes,
Medicaid records?
I can.
Please, do you have them there? Or?
No, ma'am, I don't. I just have the bank records.
See if this assists you.
That is correct. There is not the only treatment is on November 19th, 2015.
But we know from previous testimony that November 17th was a date that she was seen at Piedmont Henry, correct?
I'm not aware of
You're not
further
aware
other
of it.
testimony.
Okay. But you're the investigator on the case.
That's correct.
So you're aware that she was treated at Piedmont Henry on November 17th, 2015.
I actually am not aware of that because that was not something that I actually investigated.
So who did that investigation?
I would assume it would be either Investigator Fleming or maybe even Investigator Lucas.
But suffice it to say that 1117 does not show up on that Medicaid report.
That's correct.
If she was seen on 1117 at Piedmont Henry, then either she paid some different way or it just didn't get registered, correct?
Yes.
Another thing, I turn your attention, if you would, to Layla's doctor's visit on June 29th, 2015.
Okay.
Is there any indication that there was anything other than vaccinations that day?
No, ma'am.
any indication of injuries, bruises, battering, cuts, scrapes?
No, ma'am.
Thank you, that's all I have.
At this time, the state would ask the court to take judicial notice of calendar months for June 2015, July, August, and October, and November.
Any objection? Okay.
And we'll
Remain-
mark them
court
as
takes
page
judicial notice.
220. Investigator Flynn, did you speak with the folks at Turning Point?
Yes, I did.
According to the letter that you received in 2015, did they provide daycare during the days of the week, Monday through Friday?
No, they did not.
What day of the week would they provide, I guess, Sunday care?
Correct. Only on Sundays for Sunday services or if there was a special event at the church, is what I was told.
So kind of like Sunday school?
Correct.
And I'm asking you to look next to the Marcus States Exhibit 224 to August the 12th. What day is that? I'm sorry, what day of the week is that?
What day of the week is August 12th?
Yes, ma'am.
Wednesday.
Nothing further.
All right, thank you.
Did you ask them about Wednesday nights at Turning Point?
I asked specifically about when child care services were available.
So you don't know whether Wednesday nights they had childcare available or not?
She confirmed that only the time they would provide child care would be on Sundays or if there was a special event at the church.
So if there was a special event that fell on a Wednesday, then they would have care, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Nothing further.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Step down. And your excuse.
Thank you.
State will call us next witness.
State calls Troy Mitchell.
Troy Mitchell.
You raise your right hand and sworn. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
You can put your hand down. Please state your true and correct name for the record.
Troy Mitchell,
Sir, how are you currently employed?
with Henry County 911.
And what do you do with Henry County 911?
I'm a lead dispatcher.
And what does that mean to be a lead dispatcher?
I answer 911 calls at dispatch, police, fire, EMS.
And as part of the answering 911 calls, do you, well, what kind of calls, may sound silly, what kind of calls do you get at 911?
Any type of call.
Do you get medical calls?
Yes.
Do you have training in how to respond to medical calls?
Yes, sir.
And sometimes are you required to talk people through different types of medical procedures on those calls?
Yes, sir. We are EMD certified.
And what does that mean?
Emergency medical dispatch.
And how long have you been with the Henry County 911?
6 years.
Is this your first job in this kind of role?
Yes, sir.
I want to bring you back to November 17th of 2015. Do you recall getting a 911 call on November 17th, 2015?
Yes, sir.
And do you recall specifically the nature of that call?
It was a person choking call.
Now, are there any sort of records that are kept by Henry County 911 Center?
Yes, sir.
And are you familiar with the term CAD report?
Yes, sir.
What is a CAD report?
CAD is the computer-aided dispatch, where we log all the information that we receive from the caller.
And is that something that is generated for every 911 call?
Yes, sir.
Is that something that's kept that is kept by Henry County 911?
Yes, sir.
All right. Your Honor, at this time I move into evidence case 225, which is the computer-aided dispatch record. There is an attached certificate of authenticity.
Admitted 225.
Sir, I'm going to go ahead and show you this. 225. Can you tell us when exactly you got the call that's referenced in case 225?
It's 1741.
Those of us who aren't used to military time,
Sorry,
what time is that?
541
And that's PM?
p.m. Yes, sir.
And what kind of call did you receive?
A person choking call.
And are you the person who handled the entirety of that call as far as 911 is concerned?
Yes, sir.
And what specifically did you do as the 911 operator on this call?
I provided emergency medical dispatch to him, performed CPR instructions.
I want to show you this one previously marked as State's Exhibit 226. Do you recognize State's Exhibit 226?
Yes, sir.
And what do you recognize this to be?
The recording of the 911 call.
Okay, and did you have an opportunity to listen to this recording yourself?
Yes, sir.
Did you do anything to indicate that you listened to this recording?
I signed it.
Okay. And is it a fair and accurate recording of the 911 call from November 17th, 2015.
Yes, sir.
Were there any modifications, alterations, or deletions to this particular call?
No, sir.
Your Honor, at this time, I'd move to admit States 226.
Admitting States 226.
Then you indicated that you had a 911 call with a person. Do you recall the nature of why the call came in?
It was a child choking on a piece of chicken who then stopped breathing halfway through the call.
You said they stopped breathing halfway through the call?
I believe so.
When they did that, what did you do when she advised the child to stop breathing?
I gave instructions on how to do CPR.
And were you aware the entire time as to how old the child was?
Yes, sir.
And how old was the child?
2 years old.
Your Honor, it's time I'd ask the public.
May publish.
On the breastbone, right in the center of the chest, right between the nipples. Put your other hand on top of that. fast 30 times, at least twice per second. Let the chest come all the way up between pumps, and tell me when you're done. So hard and fast 30 times and count it out with me, okay? I'm fine, I'm here. You're fine, you're doing a great job. Like I said, none of this is going down. Gotta have one away. Count it out when you do those pumps. Got it, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. All right, slow down, not quite as fast. 17, 18, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 29, 30. All right, now check it out. Bring it on, check. Don't do anything fun. All right, with your mouth. All right, now, we're ready to flat her back like she was. With your hand under her neck and shoulders. Slightly tilt her head back again. Make sure her head tilts it back. All right, put your mouth over her nose and mouth. I'm sorry? They're coming around the station. They're close to you. Now, just keep doing CPR. Put your hand under your neck, under her shoulders, slightly tilt her head back. Put your mouth over her nose and mouth. And I want you to give her 2 puffs, 2 regular breaths of air. You should see the chest rise with each breath, okay? Alright, can you feel the air going in and out? Okay, did you see your chest rise? Alright, good job. Now I want you to pump the chest 30 more times. Same way we did earlier. Count them out with me, okay? Make sure your fingers are on the breastbone and the center of the chest right between the nipples. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Alright, from now on, give the baby 2 more puffs. Make sure you tilt her head back just like we did. Alright, once you go to 2 puffs, 30 more pumps again. We're going to keep doing it until I don't kick it over. What's the on that shirt? Say 1, you do it well. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. All right, 2 more puffs of air again. Alright, you're doing a great job. Don't give up. We'll keep her going until the paramedics can arrive, alright? Let's do 30 more pumps again. Let's do a minute away now. Let's do a minute away. They're almost there. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Alright, now before you do the 2 pumps, let's check her breathing again, okay? Good one. That's fine. Okay, just put your hand on her forehead. The other hand under the baby's neck and shoulders and try to make sure the head's tilted back. Put your hair next to her mouth and try to keep it feel her ear and breathing. Okay, let's do it now. We got Pete coming as fast as we can as well. Keep going. You did the 2 pumps of air, right? Alright, let's keep pumping the chest then. Count her with me. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Good job. Keep up the air now. Make sure that every time you breathe in, you see that chest rise, okay? She wants for coming. Yeah, okay, let's do a minute. It seems like it takes a long time. It's just going to call me. They're right there, okay? Go ahead again. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. No. Then go into the front door, lock Okay, the there, flat. Make sure you flag it down. Alright, tell me when you're right there with her, okay? Tell me when they're in? Alright. Ready for it there? I'm gonna get it there. Alright, tell me when they're right there with her, I can hang up with you, okay? Tell me when they're in? Alright, we'll make sure we got picture out there. Make sure we got picture out there.
As the 911 operator, do you have any further role in the treatment of the patient after the paramedics arrive?
No, sir.
Generally, do you even know what happens after the 911 call?
No, sir.
That is further. Thank you. Cross.
Mr. Mitchell, I just have a couple of questions for you. You said told her to take the heel of her hand and push down 1.5 inches, correct?
Yes, sir.
Can you show us and show the jury what you meant by the heel of the hand?
Just using one hand, the heel of the hand in the center of the breastbone.
Okay. And the heel of the hand would be the lower part of the hand.
Yes, sir.
And you did not tell her to use 3 fingers to do CPR, did you?
I believe at one point I did say at first to use the heel of the hand and then use fingers for the second one.
Okay, but you had her do 30 plus 30 plus 30, pumping with the heel of the hand 1.5 inches, correct?
Yes, sir. 30 chest compressions for 2 breaths.
And so she did a total of 90 compressions with the heel of her hand.
I'm not sure how many total she did, but yes,
But
sir.
you instructed her to do 30 and then 30 and then 30, correct?
30 and then 2, yes, ma'am.
Mr. Mitchell, since you're over the phone, you can't tell us how, in fact, she was actually doing those impressions, correct?
No, sir.
All right, anything else? Thank you, sir. You can step down. Any objection to this witness being excused? No,
No.
and you're excused. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we're just going to take a 5-minute stretch break and then come back.